Hello and welcome. I'm Stephen Marland, Director for Strategy and Innovation at AI Dash. I spent the last 20 years in the energy sector and had the opportunity to work within large businesses to develop energy and climate change scenarios, climate adaptation plans, and more recently, solutions to support biodiversity and biodiversity recovery. Our vision at AI Dash is to make the world greener, cleaner, and safer, and we do this from space. Earlier this week, we made an announcement about how AI Dash can help organisations meet their biodiversity net gain targets. And that's the topic I'd like to talk about today. We've come to understand the impacts of climate change, and we anticipate more extreme weather. That rapid transition is placing additional strain on already stressed ecosystems. While the population of mankind has doubled in the last 50 years, animal populations have declined by 60%. And over 1 million species are at risk of extinction globally. Biodiversity loss is an existential threat to humanity, affecting the production of food, medicine, and pharmaceutical products. Indirectly, the loss of nature within a community also impacts on human health, well-being, and prosperity. Land use and land change influences both climate change and biodiversity. They're both inextricably linked, and both need to be tackled together. The problem as I see it is simple. We cannot improve what we cannot measure. Frameworks have enabled us to talk about climate change in everyday language. Measurement processes have become well established, and it's commonplace for organisations to monitor and take informed actions. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could do the same for biodiversity? If we could take stock of biodiversity across the entire company, inspire leaders of those organisations responsible for land to stretching goals leading to a net gain in biodiversity, to provide them with tools to monitor, plan and disclose without excess cost, without complexity. We need to start with a pragmatic way to measure. Now, standards are emerging that try to balance complexity of biodiversity with a consistent measurement basis. One approach is using ecological surveys and the relationship between habitat classification and the prevalence of species. These such scorecard methods enable a consistent way of setting a biodiversity reference point. And they're often used to support planning and development and construction, so that new construction projects will promote a net gain in biodiversity over time. What if we could scale this approach? It could be applied to monitor an organisation's entire land portfolio from year to year. And that would enable an organisation to set targets of, say, 10, 20, 30% by 2030. And that's what we're actually starting to see. Enterprises setting goals not just for net zero, but also committing to a net gain in land sustainability. But there's a problem. Traditional ecological surveys are often manual. They could take a long time to complete, especially over larger areas or distributed estates. And they're all relatively expensive. And these are barriers that are going to slow it down and stall progress. Simply put, we don't have enough ecologists to scale such assessments quickly enough, or at a price point that organisations, large or small, will accept. We can remove some of these barriers by providing better tools to ecologists and to organisations. Using Earth observation and image recognition AI technology to support ecological inspection isn't a new idea, but now the technology is caught up with where it needs to be. In the past, satellites produced images in the range of 10 metres by 10 metres per pixel, and that was useful for a broad observation of land cover, but it's not granular enough to support ecologists in the field. We're now at 30 centimetres by 30 centimetre pixel resolution, and there's thousands of new commercial satellites going into orbit every year. In fact, there's been an exponential growth in new Earth observation imagery. And when we turn our attention to the software side, AI modelling, and in particular image recognition software, has advanced significantly in the last decade, in some applications beyond human capabilities. It's now so advanced that we depend on them to access our phones, our personal banking information. So that technology can very accurately classify land. By fusing these two technologies together, we can augment surveys and deploy those specialists where they can add most value. Last November time, at COP26, AI Dash launched its first solution, and now we're tracking thousands of land sites, serving electric, gas and water utilities, mining, forestry and farming. This saves time and costs. So let me share an example from a company that is near and dear to my heart. As part of their sustainability charter, National Grid has several targets, and one is to improve land sustainability by 10% in the next 8 years. That's sustainability over thousands of sites, from very small, minuscule sites to very, very large, big plots, the largest one being over 2,500 acres. They're using satellites and AI to measure and classify land. They've also developed a natural capital accounting system to measure not just biodiversity, but a range of benefits, including air pollution, carbon absorption, and societal metrics, all driven by a survey from space. They're able to quantify all of this at the site level and the overall portfolio. We provide not just the ability to measure, but to manage the entire data in a platform. And that's very important. They can run scenarios and understand how to achieve their targets in a more effective way, how they can change land and what the benefits will be. And they can do that in minutes in that platform, whereas in the past it would have taken perhaps days with a contractor or consultant. They can track progress and report to internal and external stakeholders very, very rapidly. Now, this is just the start. In a few years' time, we'll have access to more frequent and different types of images. We can already identify, using that data, selected woodland species. We can measure the dimensions of individual trees, their annual growth rates, or even predict health of trees. We're now starting to work to assess the condition of land habitats, which is very important for biodiversity monitoring, and again, to speed up those assessments even further. We can start to look at how this approach can provide insights to things like nutrient composition of soils, and in time, I believe we'll be able to track the spread of smaller, perhaps invasive species with very high accuracy. And as we approach COP27, we're going to be launching our carbon monitoring solution in just a few weeks' time. We believe that by providing these insights, we can help accelerate net gain and net zero together. Thank you.